Okay, hi everyone, it's Megan Joaquin. Welcome to our third class. Today we're going to be talking about encouragement. We're going to be talking about why it's important for kids, parents, and how it can help your children stick to routines and how it can help them feel good about themselves. Okay, so first let's start with our commitment. So for the rest of the night, or the rest of the class, I'm going to encourage myself by thinking, I'm safe, I can handle this during moments of difficulty or doubt. So some of the things that I might bring up tonight, they might seem overwhelming to you, or you might get the feeling of, oh, that will never work, not with my kids. And if you're starting to feel that way, I want you to encourage yourself. I want you to tell yourself, okay, I can handle this, I can try this, maybe it will work for my kids. Okay, so I want to talk to you first about the power of unity. As human beings, we all have something called mirror neurons in our brain, and basically what this is that when we interact with each other, we are really good at sensing each other's emotions, or their energy, so to speak. And so it's basically like our instinct. So we can usually tell when other people are feeling angry, or, you know, they're feeling sad, or maybe some kind of threat to us. So when a child is in a state of rage, say in a classroom, and they're just, you know, they're freaking out, they're throwing books, they're kicking the floor, they're hitting anyone who comes close to them, what's going to happen then, you know, depending on how the teacher and the other children in the room respond, that will determine where the child's, you know, where their emotional state ends up going. So if the teacher responds by yelling at the child, then the child is going to continue being angry and continue being in this state of rage, especially, and then eventually it's going to get to all the other children. And all of the other children, they're going to feel this rage, and basically their brains are just going to link up with what the teacher and the other student are feeling until everyone is feeling in some kind of rage, and they're all in the survival state, and they're all just feeling genuinely stressed out. You've probably seen this when one of your children is scared or angry, and then your other children seem to be getting infected by their emotion. So if our children are acting this way, they're really angry, what then can we do to help calm them down? Well, if we want our children to be calm, then despite how much they're yelling at us and they're raging at us, we need to remember that we are in this with them, that we are living this experience with them, and we need to be that voice of calm. And we need to be, you know, we need to approach them with, okay, you're upset about this, or you're very angry about this. That's okay. It must be really hard for you. I can listen. And no matter how long or how angry your child gets, just continue that calm. Your child will respond to you eventually, because that is what our brains do. Our brains are hardwired to have us respond to the emotions of others around us. It's a survival skill. Our children, I mean, we wouldn't be parents without them, and they can't do this without us. They need our help to help bring them back to that emotional equilibrium. Okay, now I'm going to show you a video, and I love this video because I think it really demonstrates the power of encouragement.
Enfin. Baik bola, Mitunya, pas ok, bola, ok, bola. 되죠. 아!
Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about this quote. So, relationships are the motivation for and cradle of all learning. Essentially, what this means is that if you want your children to be good people, basically where they value doing things for others, or they value listening to what you say or following your rules, then it's absolutely essential that you have a relationship with them. When parents are too quick to offer rewards or too quick to offer punishment, it takes away the effect of asking your child to do something simply because it will benefit you or benefit your family. Children like being given the opportunity to prove that they're capable of doing something. And really, it's so much easier to motivate someone to help you when they love you and when they feel safe with you and when they know that you would do the same for them. So think about, if you've ever seen, say, a celebrity share some kind of challenge on Facebook or something. You might read it and think like, yeah, okay, cool. Maybe someone will want to do like your 30-day no carbs challenge. Great. Maybe people that really feel connected to that celebrity will be more impacted. But imagine the difference when your best friend is, she comes to you and she's like, hey, we should do a 30-day no carbs challenge. You're probably going to be a lot more motivated and a lot more interested. And is that because your best friend is necessarily a more motivating or encouraging or charismatic person? Not necessarily. The reason is because you have a relationship with that person. Okay, so there's a couple of types of noticing that we can use to help with encouragement. So the first kind is basic noticing. And this is saying to your child, oh, you did it. And then you describe, without any kind of judgment, what your child did. So this is a really good one to use when you can tell that your child is really just trying to get your attention. Like if you're driving home and your child keeps saying, hey, look at me, look at this, look, I did it. Or they keep asking you, hey, what's this? And, then you're trying to kind of look back and be like, I think that's your shoe, for the fourth time. And you're, trying to still keep your attention on the road and give your child attention. It's a little unnerving. This is a good one. You can say, oh, wow, you did it. You showed me your shoe. Or you showed me the sky. You could also follow up. It doesn't always necessarily have to be, oh, you did it. Sometimes your children might be using this, hey, look at me. They're seeking your attention because they want to connect with you. And so it doesn't always necessarily have to be tied to something that they accomplished. It could also just be, oh, yeah, you're looking at the sky. Oh, what color is the sky? The sky is blue. Sometimes your child is just seeking to have a conversation with you. Okay, our next type of noticing is noticing to encourage compliance. So this is a type of noticing that is best to use after giving an assertive command. Now, if you'll remember from last week when we talked about assertiveness, this is using a calm but firm tone, and this is describing exactly what you want your child to do in that moment. So it could be, pick up your shoes, do it now. So after you've made a command like that, and let's say your child did pick up their shoes, what you can then say to them is, you did it, you picked up your shoes. And you can use more detail. You say, oh, you did it, you picked up your shoes and you put them on your feet. Or you did it, you picked up your shoes and you put them in your room. Or you did it, you picked up your shoes and look, they're in your hand. Especially with this type of noticing, celebrate them. Just treat them just with complete joy. Because if you want your children to continue, picking up their shoes after you tell them to, then show them how much it excites you, how happy it makes you. And they're going to feel so powerful. And they're going to be like, wow, not only am I a big kid enough to pick up my own shoes, I am also powerful enough to make my mom or make my dad smile and to make them happy. And then your children are from there, they're going to seek to prove and also seek to just figure out exactly how much power they have. And young children do this anyway. I mean, you've seen it when, they try and buckle themselves in their car seat and they don't want anyone else to help, or they want to zip up their own jacket, and of course, they take 20 minutes where you'd take 30 seconds, but they want to be able to prove that they can do things for themselves. It's kind of a basic human desire to want to be independent. And so when children begin to notice that, oh wow, the things I do affect other people, it's really huge for them. And so when we're really noticing all of the ways that what they've done has affected us in a helpful way, they're going to feel like really powerful but really good people. Because of course, it's powerful for children when they recognize when something they've done has affected someone in an unhelpful or a negative way, and they'll probably feel bad. And usually when they feel bad, they'll respond by feeling angry, or they'll or acting meaner, or they'll respond by feeling sad. And this is why a lot of times when a child hits another child, both the children will end up crying. Because most of the time, children they're not interested in just hurting each other. They're interested in trying to get their way, or they're frustrated and they didn't know how to use their words instead of their fists. And this is why when our children do things that are helpful, we should just absolutely celebrate the absolute maximum. Okay, now the last type of noticing is noticing to encourage kindness and helpfulness. This is pretty similar to the noticing to encourage compliance, with the exception that this doesn't have to come with them doing something that we asked first. So this is the times where your child shared their cotton candy with another child. And it can be just even the tiniest, stingiest piece. But the fact is that they shared. And so you say, wow, you shared your cotton candy so that, let's say, Isabella could have some. That was so kind. And really, it doesn't matter if it was really stingy. Because maybe cotton candy is your child's absolute favorite treat, and it's one that they feel like they never get. And therefore, they just want to hold on to it so much because it's so important to them. That is why we just, once again, over the top, like, wow, you shared your toy so that your friend could have a toy to play with. That was so loving of you. And once again, children feel really powerful when they realize that they are able to be helpful, kind, thoughtful, loving. They love that. All people love getting that, kind of that attention of, look at you, you're so helpful, what would I do without you? I think all people love knowing that they make a positive impact on others, and they like knowing that they can be helpful to others, and that even sometimes just the way they are it's just hugely helpful to those around them. And children are no different. Usually the main difference between children and adults in this aspect is that adults have a pretty good idea already of how to be thoughtful, how to be helpful. Maybe not in every circumstance, but in general, they're usually better at coming up with ways to be helpful. Children aren't good at it. Because children don't know how to assess situations to see, she's crying, but I don't know what to do. They might understand that another child is crying because they're sad that their toy got taken away, but they may not necessarily be able to come up with, what if I helped my friend get another toy? Which is why it's just so essential that we continue to notice and to celebrate all of their kindness, because that will help our children know, this is what I can do. This is how I solve a problem. This is the thing I should be doing. Okay, so I have a couple of activities. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to pause this video for 5 minutes, and I want you to read over this. So what this is it's showing a common compliment and a conscious compliment. So the difference here is your child picks up her shoes, so you just, okay, thank you, Erica. Where conscious is, Erica, you carefully matched the toy with the label and put it in the bin so everyone can find it. That was helpful. I want you to practice using common compliments versus conscious compliments. So go ahead and say these out loud. If you're in a group, please pair up. If you're alone, go ahead and practice it yourself. It's powerful either way. And after you've read all of these, I would like you to come up with 2 examples of a common compliment versus a conscious compliment. Mostly, I'm interested in you coming up with conscious sounding compliments. Okay. Now, I want to talk about how we encourage children who have made poor choices. So, everyone throughout their life makes bad choices. And a lot of times our instinct is to punish our children. But here's the thing, is sometimes when our kids make choices, it's things like they decided to pick up 2 cups and it was too much for them, and then they end up spilling both of them. That is a child who wasn't trying to be naughty. It wasn't a child that was trying to, make a mess on the floor, and they weren't trying to do anything negative. It was just they didn't understand their ability. They overestimated it, and therefore they ended up with a mess. And probably at this point they're feeling bad, because who doesn't feel bad when you mess something up like that? About 2 years ago, actually, I was driving home from work, and I was on my way to pick up my daughter for a doctor's appointment. And I had left work a little early because I knew that her doctor's appointment was at 4, so I had to get her. So my mind was a little distracted, and I was just thinking about other things. Anyway, I get to the exit, and I think, okay, I need to turn left in this lane. And I go to turn left, and what I hadn't realized was that even though I'd driven this route for the last couple of months, somehow I hadn't noticed that I actually wasn't in the turning lane. I was in the lane right next to it. So when I went to turn, I ended up turning and crashing into a car to my left. Now, luckily, because we had just been at a stoplight, we were moving pretty slowly, like maybe 15, 20 miles an hour. I mean, it was enough where it did, damage to my car, damage to the other person's car, and I felt absolutely horrible. I was embarrassed. I was sad. I just had it all whirling through my head of, okay, well, how much money am I out now? And so the first thing I did was I took pictures of the car and I sent them to my husband. And so he immediately calls me, and, of course he's nervous, and he's asking me like, oh, are you okay? And, really, other than my feelings, I was fine. It really wasn't a severe accident. But the thing that I remember most about my husband's response was that he started thinking of suggestions like, okay, well, let's get it into, a mechanic to get it repaired. And he started asking me, like, can you drive the car? Things like that. And then we ended up missing the doctor's appointment, of course. And my husband went and picked up our daughter. But the thing that really mattered to me was that he never once embarrassed me or made any attempt to punish me for my mistake. Now, I did not want to get into that car accident. No one ever wants to get into a car accident. Car accidents are awful. And at least in my experience, the worst part of the car accident is paying for the repairs after. But I guess also, my experience, I've been pretty lucky. And he didn't lecture me. And I remember telling him that later, and he was like, well, of course I didn't. He was like, it was a car accident. He was like, it wasn't like you did it on purpose. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. But I've been a parent for 3 years now. And sometimes some of the things that my daughter does, almost all the time that she makes a mess, it's an accident. Or almost every time that she slows me down in some way, it's an accident. And yet there are times where I want to, I want to give her a lecture, or I want to tell her like, oh, well, you should know you can't carry 2 cups at the same time, you shouldn't have spilled that juice, or you should know that when you put a bowl of cereal on the couch and then jump on the couch, it's going to fall off onto the floor. And, maybe she should know, but also maybe she's still figuring things out. Or maybe sometimes when she has accidents, in her own life, maybe her mind is on other things. Maybe she's just distracted. And I know it was really powerful for me when my husband saw me as someone who was in an accident, and partly, I made poor choices. For better or worse, my mind was distracted, so in some ways it was distracted driving. I should have paid a little bit more attention. I should have been a little bit more focused on the road and on my driving. But he treated me as someone who made a mistake, but someone that he trusts normally does better. So how do we do that with our kids? Well, as you can see on the screen, here are some good ways. You say, you almost did it. You were so close. Try again. You just need some practice. I'm confident you'll think of another way of handling this. And you can, use these all the time. Or even if there's times where, say your older child hits your younger child. And it's say because your older child, they just lost their patience. And who hasn't lost their patience, It's okay, it's okay to not need to, to put them in timeout or to let their sibling hit them. It's okay to talk to them about what got them to that point. It's okay to tell them like, okay, you got so angry that you lost control and you hit your brother. We all make mistakes. And then you focus on what your child can do to make things better. And you let your child know that even when they make mistakes, they are still valuable and wonderful people. And you are here to help them think of solutions. Because for the most part, that's what your kids need most. Because they're probably not very good at it yet. Okay, now here's another chart that I love. And I would love for you to pause your video again for 5 minutes and to just really think about what's written on this chart. So there's a stressful way to perceive behavior and then a healthy way to perceive behavior. The stressful way is good, bad, deserving, undeserving, should feel good, should feel bad, innocent, guilty. And isn't that the way that probably most of us perceive behavior? I know I catch myself thinking that way, where I think, oh, my daughter hit me, she should feel bad. And then I try and describe to her like, oh, and it hurt me so much, and I might do a little fake crying, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I want her to feel bad because when she hit me, I felt bad. Therefore, I want her to feel bad as well. But here's the thing, is that I'm never really gonna know if she feels bad or not, because I can't be inside of her emotions. I can't really feel what she feels, and I think there are times when our kids cry, and even then, we don't necessarily take it as a sign that they feel good or bad. We just think, oh, they're crying. That's why it's important that we shift the way that we see the way that they act. So, we need to see things as safe and unsafe. Okay, a child that climbs a tree. We might think, oh, my child is so bad. They're climbing a tree when none of the other kids around are climbing a tree. Why does my child have to be like this? But the thing that really matters there is your child bad? Is that the thing that matters most? Or are you really just worried that your child is unsafe? Is this a tall, skinny tree with, skinny branches at the end? Or are you scared that the branches are going to break? Because if we get too set on what's good or bad, we're going to constantly be comparing our children and ourselves against everyone else. Because really, good and bad's kind of up for endless debate. What's good in some circumstances is bad in others. What's good to some people is bad to others. But things like safe and unsafe are usually pretty easy to tell. Obviously, it's unsafe for your child to drink poison, but it's usually safe for your child to be buckled in their car seat. Just saying, if we see our child is relaxed and calm, then we're like, okay, they're probably at a pretty good emotional state. But when we see our children are distressed, and distress shows in a lot of ways, it can be sadness, anger. When we see our children in these, say, high states of anger, do we think of them as out of control or bad children or children who don't worry about others? Because if we do, that always that we see it, we're going to feel more stressed. And we're going to think, oh, well, if my child's like this, what kind of a parent am I? And that's why it's better that we shift the way we see it. And we think, okay, my child is screaming. My child is kicking the floor. My child is pulling his clothes off. My child is distressed. My child needs help. Okay, so I'd like you to take 5 minutes. I'd like you to read over this chart, and I'd really like you to consider how you're viewing your children's behavior most of the time, especially if you're in, say, a public space and you're starting to feel embarrassed or you feel, say, scared from something that your child does. What are the words that come to your mind about your child? Okay. I love this quote. Continuity creates predictability. When the brain knows what to expect next, it feels safe. So, as I was talking about a little bit, when we start to feel ourselves become scared or embarrassed or nervous, when we're out somewhere with our children, we might begin to feel overwhelmed. And a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, we feel ourselves losing patience. Now, it's kind of impossible to expect that, every time our child acts in a way that has us feeling scared or angry, that we're always going to react the same way. That's just not how human beings work. So the important thing, though, is that we try and decide on, okay, well, when my child acts this way, I'm going to respond this way. And that we make an effort to try and make it predictable. All children thrive with routine. All predictability is healthy for children, whether it's, with their daily schedule of they know that they wake up and they go to school and then mom picks them up and then, they play and have some dinner, things like that. Or if the predictability comes from every time my mom's in traffic, she yells at someone. All kinds of predictability help children's brains feel safe. Obviously, some kinds of predictability are healthier than others, like having a routine versus knowing that mom will always yell in traffic. So how do we establish ways to help ourselves when we are becoming overwhelmed by our children and our lives? Well, here are some things that we can do. When we feel ourselves losing patience, we can take several deep breaths. I usually close my eyes when I do that. Not necessarily for any reason. It just kind of happens. I think 'cause I'm like, okay, I can't even look at anything right now. Can't even look at you. We can focus on what we're feeling. I usually like to think, okay, what am I feeling most of all? Am I feeling scared? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling sad? What exactly is it? Because once I'm able to identify, okay, I'm feeling sad. Okay, I'm feeling sad because my daughter didn't want to get in the car when I picked her up from daycare, even though I hadn't seen her the whole day. And it made me feel rejected. And it made me feel like, oh, what kind of a mother am I that my child doesn't see me for 8 hours and then doesn't even want to be with me? Because once I'm able to connect with how I'm feeling, it's easier then for me to think, okay, I'm already feeling emotional this way. I'm feeling sad, and my sadness is making me less patient. Usually, then I ask myself why I'm losing patience, and it's usually I'm able to determine that after I focused on what emotion I was feeling. Another thing we could do is determine if giving into our instincts, like yell, blame, punish, will accomplish what we need, or if ultimately will slow things down. So sometimes my daughter doesn't want to get in her car seat, and maybe it's at the end of a long day, so I don't necessarily have to get home, right away, and I could give her the few minutes, but sometimes I just don't want to. Sometimes I just want to pick her up and just force her into her car seat, force buckle her and be done, because I've had a long day and I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with her yelling. But sometimes I really have to ask myself, because if I pick her up and I force her into her car seat, and I'm sure that she's going to kick and fight the whole time, and she's going to scream and cry, and it is not easy to buckle an angry child into a car seat. Not at all whatsoever. I'm sure most of you know that. So I have to ask myself, okay, is it going to be faster for me to try and buckle my screaming tornado of a child into a car seat than me being patient and, giving her a positive choice, or or using assertiveness? So telling her, okay, it's time to get in your car seat, do it now. And a lot of times kids require being told things several times, because just like they're not good at thinking of solutions, they're also not good at processing things quickly. Their brains move pretty slowly, and that's okay. Sometimes I think that their legs just move like 5 or 6 times faster than their brains. And that's fine, because that's just how they are, and that's normal. And it's really frustrating for parents, absolutely. But it's just important that we accept that, okay, well, this is hard for me, and I don't like this, but this is just how it is. So I'm going to deal with it. And one thing I've noticed in my own life is that normally it is faster when I give my daughter patience. Maybe it does take her longer to get into her car seat than, when I buckle her myself. But a lot of times what happens is if I force buckle her, she then ends up angry at me, and she might scream the whole way home. And then she might still have all these, this anger and sadness directed at me that I'm going to have to keep dealing with, maybe 20, 30, 40 hours later. So is it really worth it to save 5 to 10 minutes of patience to let her get in the car seat when she's done playing with the toys that she forgot about on the bottom of the car floor? Or is it better to just have all of the big emotions so that she can just be in the car seat sooner? Another thing is, if you feel yourself really overwhelmed, turn around. If you just can't look at your child, that's fine. Step away if possible, but also if necessary. Another thing that you could even do is, if you really need to, go ahead and pull out your phone. I sometimes do that when I'm really overwhelmed. Sometimes I just scroll on Facebook for like a minute or two, and it just kind of calms my brain down a little bit. So if that works for you, that's fine. Because a lot of times your child probably just wants an extra minute or two to play before they get in their car seat or before they walk out the door. And so it'll be okay if you take that minute or two on your phone, especially if it helps calm you down. Okay, now I want to talk to you, so as I mentioned earlier, that routines are really helpful for children's brains. I want to talk to you more about how to use encouragement to help establish routines in the lives of your children. So one thing that I think is really important to point out is young children don't have words in their heads, they have pictures. Which is kind of difficult for adults to understand, because usually, if I tell you something like, don't go in there, it's haunted, you might, in your head, you probably would think of some visual images, but you would also be like, okay, she said don't go in there, I won't go in there. But for children it's so different, because if you say don't go in there, it's haunted, they'll probably just stare at you. They'll be like, Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't know the word haunted. If they do, then they might think of a ghost. And that would be the only thing that they would probably get out of that whole exchange, is that wherever you're pointing is haunted. They wouldn't understand the part of don't go in there. Children under 5 struggle significantly to understand when you say things like don't go in or do not, or really anything with a term like do not. They don't get it. Because for them, they don't hear all the words in the sentence like adults do. All they do is hear, they get a word that gives them a picture. So the most effective type of schedules, especially for young children, are ones with pictures on them. Since my daughter was born, basically, she's always struggled to sleep. We don't know why. Some kids are born great sleepers and some just aren't. And my daughter really heavily falls into that second category. And I think, part of it was, my husband and I struggled with getting her to sleep and getting her to stay asleep for so long that him and I became really emotional when it came to the issue of sleep. And so anytime we decided to try something new, it was kind of like, okay, well, hopefully this works, because if not, then I guess we're just going to have to be dead because this is too hard. We're going to die of sleep deprivation. And it was really hard for us to understand why she had struggled so much, because from the time that she was like 6 months old, we had a sleep routine for her, and we put her to bed at the same time almost every day of her life. We changed her clothes, we changed her diaper, we made sure we gave her a bottle, all these things. And we just couldn't figure out why, has our consistency not been helpful? Why hasn't it worked? And then one day it occurred to me that even though we had this routine, and the routine, yes, had over time kind of changed. I mean, obviously, when she went from being a baby to being a 3-year-old, it started to include things like go to the bathroom before bed and, focused more on brushing teeth and reading books and things like that. But one day it occurred to me that even though, we had this really well-established routine and it was something that she was so used to, she never had actually had anything to follow. So I decided to make her a chart. And that's what you see on the screen right now. So my daughter's bedtime chart is first she brushes her teeth, then she uses the toilet, then we turn off the light, we read a book, we have a little nightlight. Usually we'll say a prayer, and then my daughter sleeps in her bed. So sometimes the things get, mixed up and out of order, and that's okay. But I remember when I brought home the chart and I explained to her what it was, and she was able to recognize everything from the picture, she knew what it was. That after she brushed her teeth and I said, okay, Blair, we did that. What are we going to do next? And she looked at the chart and she pointed the toothbrush and she said, we did that. And then she wanted to complete everything on the list. She said, oh, we did that. We did that. We did that. And she got really excited that she got that. I guess for the first time she felt included in the routine. And she felt like she had power over what was going to happen. Where before it was just, we pushed her through these motions, I guess, and she never felt like she had a choice. And she never felt like she was really involved in this decision. But when we gave her the chart, something changed. And she felt like, oh, yeah, I get to be in control of that. And the shift was really amazing. We've been using the chart for 5 months now. And it doesn't necessarily work every night. And some nights she's like, I don't want to do that. But for the most part, it has been wildly helpful. And it was really amazing because a lot of times we would try and put her to bed, and we would calm her down and we'd make sure she was fed and we'd hug her for a while, sing her some songs. And she would go and she would, bang against her door. But ever since we involved her in the process, she's only gone and banged against her door once in 5 months. And that's been a huge difference considering she used to do it every day. So sometimes the things that are going to work for our children are just simple things, like giving them a list of pictures and letting them be involved. in their routines. Now, I've included another visual. This can work not just for bedtime, but it can also work for potty training as well. The reason that visuals are so powerful for children is that it provides clear information to their brains. Having a chart seems to, it seems to communicate to children that this is what is happening. And it's no longer no, this is what mommy wants to happen, this is just what's happening. Children seem to approach charts and routines and things like that when there's visuals. They seem to treat it as, oh yes, this is the schedule that everyone follows. So feel free, if you want, take a picture of this if you're struggling with potty training. I like this one because I feel like it's very detailed and it's a good reminder of, okay, first pants off, then you go potty, then you clean yourself up, you put your pants on, you wash your hands. I can verify that, the more that you encourage your children to follow these routines, of course it's important that we know that they understand what the pictures mean and how to use it and things like that. Your children are going to feel inspired and they are going to feel excited, and especially after they've say gone to the bathroom successfully, celebrate them. Say, oh my gosh, do lots of clapping, be like, that is so awesome that you did that. Or if you struggle with bedtime like my daughter did, the next morning, go ahead, celebrate her. Just, wow, and you went to bed, you stayed in your room the whole night. That was so helpful. You are so awesome. But also, if you do have your children who, even after you've introduced a chart, they're still struggling to go to the bathroom, because sometimes children sometimes they just struggle, and it's not because they don't want to. It's sometimes maybe they can't quite do something on their own yet. And so maybe your child's trying to go potty by themselves, and maybe they end up accidentally peeing in their pants. Celebrate them for trying. So, tell them, oh, you came into the bathroom and you tried to get your pants down, like, you tried really hard to do this, like, you are awesome, okay, and make sure that they know that you feel proud of them for their effort. And then you just talk to them, okay, but next time, if you're having a hard time, say, Mommy, and I'll come help you. But best of luck to all of you. I feel confident that the more that you try to apply these things in your lives with your children, that they will work. It will take a lot of patience, and these things won't work instantly, but they will work eventually. And isn't that kind of the whole goal? Okay, this is Megan Joaquin, signing off. Good luck, everyone.